And welcome back. Let's go ahead and now do a little bit of tuning. I'm going to add a little bit more here to my starting scene just so we got a couple more game elements to kind of navigate around. These are just more for some visual pieces here in my level layout. But I want to go ahead and focus right now on the tuning of the game itself. So right now, when of course I launch, I can give some input. But I don't necessarily like the responsiveness of this as much as I might like. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to my player here. I'm actually going to grab all these items here, drag them into my environment here, and then collapse that so it's out of the way. And let's focus in on the player itself. And so when we look at the player object here, one of the things we have to keep in mind is that this particular object is controlled, of course, by our upward modifier and our rotation modifier. And we also have the gravity. Now, even though I have this gravity here in how it's being modified, I can of course change this around. So let's just go ahead and make this, let's say, minus 50. And I'm just going to go ahead and play this. And so when I do this, of course you see that it's firing, but it's not actually lifting off. So I'm going to want to maybe adjust this. Maybe let's try to make minus 25. And if I play that again, we get that coming up. And you see it's really snappy. It's coming down really fast here. And so you might have to adjust yours to find the value that you like. I'm going to go ahead and just try that as a value. And now in terms of my upward modifier and my rotation modifier, I may want to get those where they're even snappier. So like right now when I press the rotation, you can see I get some pretty good movement on that. But let's just see what happens when I take it up to, let's say, 200. Ooh, I got some really nice, good, fast movement there. So we can really make some really quick adjustments. And of course, we can play around with that to find the values you want. And right now, I'm not using any scientific method or mathematical approach. I'm just kind of playing around with some numbers here. So my upward modifier, let's go ahead and make that 30. And I'm going to go ahead and run this again. And so that's just to give me a little more upward thrust. And again, I got that great control now. So now it feels a lot more snappy and responsive. Now, there's another thing that I noticed when I was playing around with my game. Let's see if you can notice it. So when I go ahead and press play, and sometimes when I get the camera down here, you notice there's sometimes when the player seems to be kind of cut off from the camera. So let's go look at our Cinemachine camera here, and we can see, oh, look, right there's the issue. You can see automatically the target here of where it's at. The shuttle is actually not in it. So let's go ahead and adjust our target offset here. So we want to change that Y value here. So I'm going to drag that down here so the player is a little bit more in view. And I might have to adjust the X of that so it's just a little bit more on center of where I want that to be. I might adjust my dampening values here so just a little bit more responsive. I'm just going to cut those down to half there. Let's quickly give that a quick save to see how that changes things. All right, and so now when I go ahead and press play, and I'm going to go ahead and do that crash here. That looks good. Let's do another one. I'm going to, let's say, it's flying over. Ooh, here we go, and boom. All right. So the camera's doing a little bit better job of keeping up with the player now, and that's because I adjusted this so the player is a little bit more on center. One thing I'm also going to adjust here with my Cinemachine camera is in here I have my dead zone and hard size limits. My dead zone, of course, is this space right here around the player. You can see it's actually much smaller than the shuttle itself, and you know that's not necessarily the end of the world, but I am going to try to increase that just a little bit here, and maybe just Y, just tiny bit here, just so we can kind of play around. Actually, leave the Y alone there. I will adjust the value here for the camera now just a little bit. And now, of course, we can look at our hard limits here. So this is the space around the camera. Let's go ahead and just adjust that. So you can see if I adjust that here around the X, we wanted to bring that in so it's a little bit more narrow. Otherwise, you know, we have this very large area here where the camera is going to still try to kind of say, hey, this is an active region. So let's go ahead and save that, give a quick play. And so now when I start doing this, all right, the camera seems to be doing a pretty good job, especially when I hit the edge there of my game environment. I want to make sure that the camera never exceeds. Oh, I actually went a little too much there. Looks like I flew right through that wall, so that might be something I need to do a little tuning of there with some of my player environments. But again, you can play around here with your camera. If I want more hard size here, again, I can adjust these here. And in fact, if you ever like, what is this? Hover over this. It says the target will not be allowed outside this region. And when the target is within this region, the camera will gradually readjust to realign towards the desired position. So that is a great way to say, hey, I don't know what this is. This is a great way if you just hover over these to kind of get a kind of quick preview of what those things are. And I'm going to just tighten mine up just a little bit more. And notice it, even though it's still got that snappiness. All right, it was a little bit more constrained there because, again, we're using these limits here now to kind of set the barrier of where we want these things to be. And again, you can play around with these, find the value that feels the most comfortable to you. And of course, you might have to, again, just tinker tune with them. I might tinker around with them more later. I think the last thing we're going to play around with here is my camera distance. So let's just go ahead and adjust that a little bit. So if I draw this all the way out, you can see we can get really crazy here. I don't necessarily want my player to be that small, so I'm actually going to bring that back on in. I do want them to kind of feel like an appropriate size. I think maybe at 10 was too much. I'm going to go to 15 here. You see that does, of course, affect the camera itself, so I can, tinker and tune around with some of these values then as well as I start working with these different pieces here. So, for example, some of my hard limits can change here. So let's just go ahead. I'm going to actually increase the size of this here, just so we can see that just a little bit more effectively. And so if I go ahead and press play now, all right, that's feeling pretty nice and responsive. We have a pretty good bit of control there. Boom, that's looking great. All right, and so I'm going to bring that back on over so it's more 50-50 split. But even though it looks pretty small here, as you can see, if I actually make that much larger, you can see it actually still feels appropriate size. So that should give a good bit of tuning here for our game. Go ahead and tune yours up to find the thing that feels right for you in your playstyle.